everyone, and welcome to Stash Chats. This is our final Stash Chats episode of the year. So hopefully you guys will have a good time. We're not going to do anything particularly festive themed, but we do have a special guest today. So we've got our first ever returning guest to Stash Chats. So today we're going to be talking to Sandeep, who I'm sure a lot of you will know, who runs the Sister Mintaka fabric shop and was also gracing our TV screens earlier this year on ITV's Dress the Nation. So as always, if you're watching live, do get involved in the live chat. Just pop into the chat to let us know where you're joining from, just to get us warmed up, and then you can pop in your questions for Sandeep and we can hear all about what she's been up to in the last year and a half since Stash Chats episode 1. So yeah, I was really fortunate to have Sandeep on the first ever episode, and it's really exciting to have her back because I think she's had a really exciting year. So she's going to tell us more about that later. So hello to Mel and hello to Linda. Thank you for joining us. So yeah, this is going to be a really fun episode. Don't particularly have any like big Stash Hub news to keep you updated with, I don't think. Yeah, just that Doug and I are hoping to have a little bit of time off over the festive period to see our families. So if you get stuck with Stash Hub, check out our tutorials on the Stash Hub website, or check out our YouTube channel because there's lots of tutorials there as well. But obviously if you do run into issues, you can email us and we'll get back to you when we can. So hello Marjan, probably said your name completely wrong there, but hello to Jackie as well. Right, is everyone ready? Shall we get the show started? Because I feel like don't want to eat into too much of Sandeep's time because she's going to have loads of fun stuff to chat to us about. So let's get her in the chat. Hello, Sandeep.
How you doing?
Joining us on Stash Chats.
Thank you for having me again. It's good to be back.
I know, it's always reassuring when you get invited back somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah, it means I didn't do such a bad job the first time.
Yeah, I actually rewatched episode 1 because it's been such a long time. I was like, I need to make sure I don't just talk about the exact same things as last time. And that was a really good chat. So that's a little plug for episode 1 if anyone's, not seen the very early episodes of Stash Chats when we were doing it on Facebook, on the Instagram, and most of it was like, let's see if we can get this person to join. It's pronounced Marion, so I was massively wrong there. But yeah, so sorry about that. So do you want to just kick us off, Sandeep, with a little introduction to yourself if, anyone somehow doesn't know who you are?
So I'm Sandeep, the person behind Sister Mintaka, which is an online fabric shop based in the UK. And I just sell loads of fabrics and patterns and haberdashery, stuff like that. And as you kindly mentioned, I was also on a TV show called Dress the Nation. Yeah, that's me.
So that's really exciting. So when we did our first Stash Chats, you mentioned just a little bit about how you first started sewing in 2017 and you were really inspired by a rifle paper company fabric. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about, what inspired you to first start sewing?
Oh gosh, now I'm scared of repeating myself or saying a whole different story. But I mean, really, there's lots of things that inspired me. Partially is down to really wanting to sew particular fabrics. If there was a print that I absolutely adored, and I remembered seeing my high school teacher's big sister on Instagram had sewn some really cool pajamas, and I was like, I want to be like her. I want to be able to sew. I want that fabric. So I bought the fabric. I took lessons, and all these years later, yeah, here I am.
Amazing. So were you kind of like family friends with your like teacher's family? Because I feel like that's a strange connection. You're like
I just remember, she used to sell bits and bobs like hair clips via my school teacher, and stuff she'd make at school, kind of thing. It was kind of, I don't want to get my teacher in trouble here. But yeah, I don't know. I somehow ended up following her on Instagram, and just was really inspired by her. Yeah, I think that's what it takes. You just need to see someone sewing, and then you suddenly catch the bug, and you're like, I want to do that. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you like don't come from a family that sews, or you don't know anyone that sews, often you don't kind of consider it. Like if you didn't get on with sewing at school, or you've just never done it before, you don't just think, oh well, I could just sew my whole wardrobe by myself. It's much more like it, you know, if you see someone else doing it really well, you're like, oh, maybe I could try that.
That's it. Yeah, because like I think for me, before I even began to learn to sew, WordPress was amazing in the olden days, and it had like amazing bloggers, and you could search through like, you know, using a tag of like sewing, and so I would search through that every day, and I would just read all of the blogs that would come up. So there was like self-assembly required, Sew Manju, Sue. I can't remember what her thingy is, but there's a good few of them. Kate, all the Kates actually, and like the Australian Katies and all this, that, and the others. Just I used to read them all, and like they really inspired me to just give it a go, because you could see all of the amazing stuff they'd make, and like fashion was really different back then, even though it was only 2017. Like clothes were just different, and so when you had sewists make stuff, it was just so different to what you could buy on the high street. And actually sorry, I'm kind of digressing here, but like just thinking about the evolution of like the sewing community and the stuff we make, it's still very different, but I feel like in some ways we're years ahead of the high street. You see people make the coolest stuff, and then like even if I scroll through my saved pictures from years ago, you're only starting to see those items now available to buy, like mass produced, and you're just like, this is why sewing is amazing, and why we're so amazing as creative people, because we can just do things, and we're not like kind of confined to like, I don't know, the high street or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like, because similar to me, you love to wear like lots of color, and after the pandemic, like the color just went from the high street. I think the clothing brands and the fast fashion shops had suffered quite a lot, because they, you know, no one was going out, so no one was buying clothes, so they played it really, really safe with like the 2021 collections. So they were all just like basics, they were all dull colors. So to be able to like sew my own stuff and not have to just wear like really sad clothes was such a treat.
That's really interesting, actually. I guess from a brand's perspective, they probably didn't have an idea as well as to when the pandemic would end. So if they've designed these collections like so many months in advance, you are going to get still that pandemic era clothing still kind of going through. But yeah, you're right. Like, I mean, by that time I wasn't really wearing, I mean, yeah, much ready to wear, but I don't think I was particularly inspired. Because I used it a lot, always like check like Net-a-Porter's website and all these apps and the others just for inspo in terms of what textiles I'd source. And it was always just loungewear for like a good few years. And I was like, I don't even bother scrolling anymore, because it's just so dull and boring.
Yeah, and I remember as well, like in sort of 2019, there was a lot of like, you know, sew the trends or sew the clothes of this brand type thing, and I don't really see that as much now.
Yeah.
What does Linda say? Being a sewist, you have far more choice in style and fabrics, no end of ideas. Yeah, I think that's very true.
Absolutely spot on. Yeah.
So, like obviously we're going to talk about Dress the Nation, but like since that sort of whole process, do you think a lot more about like the fashion industry and like how the whole process works?
Yeah, I kind of like, because I kind of want to be a part of the fashion industry one day. So I'm not here to bash it, but it's really interesting to kind of just see how it kind of goes alongside the sewing industry, and like how they all kind of interlink. And I don't know, I kind of starting to see like a bigger picture of everything. But I think there'll always be a space for both things. There's never going to be like one or the other. And I think we're really lucky in the fact that we have the choice as sewists to decide if we want to buy or if we want to make. And yeah, it's just, I think having that freedom is just really, really amazing.
Definitely. And sometimes, like, I think you have to sort of think about it differently because, you know, I think a lot of people, when they first go into sewing, they think this is going to be really cheap to make my own clothes instead of buying them. But where like fast fashion is so cheap, oh, it, and like, you know, if you buy like good quality fabrics, it's actually much more expensive to make your own clothes. But then if you think about it differently, like if you buy a Liberty fabric and make like the sort of dress that you would buy in Liberty, that would actually cost like £500 if you bought the dress ready made. So it's just like a whole different sort of world of fashion, really, that you kind of start comparing yourself to, rather than you know, stuff that you could get for like, you know, £5. So yeah, it's quite different. And like now I go to shops as well, and where did I go? I went somewhere like LK Bennett or something. I was like, oh, this is a bit expensive. And then I was looking inside and I was like, well, they have French seamed it. At least they've done that.
Oh, spoken like a true sewist. That's like just like me as well. I like, so before I learned to sew, I would be like Marks and Spencer's or H&M or whatever I could kind of get my hands on in Coventry Town Centre, which isn't a lot. And yeah, and then like when you learn to sew, you start to learn about the fabrics and the types that you like to wear, and then the seam finishes and the quality. And then you kind of just start to learn how to do it better than what you could have bought. And then your fabrics get better and your finishes get better. And slowly you're climbing up that kind of ladder, but you don't really realize like how that kind of progresses. And like when I go to the shops and like I mean, I don't go into like H&M and things like that. I just don't bother. So I'll go into like the fancy pants shops, and like you say, I'll look at those seam finishes and see how they've like made a garment and constructed it. And I'll sit there and judge them. And like, I'll be like, well, Max Mara had an amazing coat a few years ago, and the fabric quality was better like 3 years ago. Not that I'm ever going to buy a £1,000 like amazingly stitched coat, because that's just way out of my budget. But you just kind of start to notice like the difference, and like, yeah. And now, so I think that makes it even harder to buy ready to wear for me, because I'm so fussy now and what my expectations are. If you want me to buy something, it has to be exceptional, which is why half of my clothes are now falling apart, because I just don't buy anything. Yeah, I really need to sew more or buy more. It's one of those.
Yeah, I think with buying ready to wear, it either has to be like exceptional or just something really boring that you don't want to make. Like, oh, but it is such a nightmare. Like, I just wanted to buy like a white cami top to wear underneath something, and I was like, I don't want to make this. It's too boring. Like, I'm not buying fabric and, you know, little sliders and all this just to make something really basic. I'll easily buy one. But then I was like going around all the shops and I was like, no, this one doesn't have adjustable straps. No, this one, the neckline's wrong. Oh, this one doesn't fit quite right. And I was just like, how do people do this?
Yeah, it's wild. That actually reminds me, I went into a shop the other day and I was trying on some bras. I won't mention the brand. And honestly, the fit and the finish on some of them were just shocking. And I asked for help with, sorry, this is I always digress so much, but the bra that I tried on, it was honestly, the fit was terrible, and the wires were literally just sat on top of my chest. And I spoke to the bra fitter and she was like, yeah, no, that's a misconception. It's fine if they sat like out there and they're not touching your like your chest wall and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you're just saying that because you want the sale. And it just kind of reminds you that ready to wear is trying to get the best fit for as many people as possible, but it's never going to be perfect for everyone, which is why you can never find that cami that you want. But half of the time, like, I think that's what leads a lot of people to sew in as well, isn't it? Because you just can't find the exact thing you want. And then, yeah, and I think we're just so privileged now, knowing that we can have the exact thing that we want. So you just don't settle for less, whereas before you would have just bought any one of those 5 that you saw.
Yeah, definitely. And just been like, oh, it'll do. But now I'm like, well, even if it's a bit too long, I can just cut that off and rehem it. And
I mean, I probably wouldn't have even thought to do that. I would have probably just worn it really badly.
Yeah, Jackie's saying the lack of pattern matching in ready to wear is annoying as well.
Oh, I'm terrible at pattern matching, so I don't even do it. Like the dress that I'm wearing today, I wish I had pattern matched it because it would have looked better. But yeah, I didn't have enough fabric, to be honest, to do that. But I think I've only ever pattern matched like 2 garments, maybe. So yeah, is that quite sinful?
I mean, it's your garment, isn't it? You can do it however you like. I think that's the beauty of it is how much work you want to put into it as well.
That's true.
I made a shirt for my granddad, and it had this print with collies on it, the collie dogs, and I pattern matched the pocket, and that was amazing. But I also spent ages pattern matching the front, but I forgot that like men's and women's shirts overlap the other way. So I put the buttonholes in, like on the men's side, and then I like was starting to put the buttons on, and I was like, "What happened to my pattern matching?"
Oh,
the buttons were cut in half.
Oh.
Then, like Doug was like, "Oh well, you know, nobody knows that it was supposed to be pattern matched. It's only you." And I was just like, "My work."
Oh.
I'm so sad. All right, we've got a question from Linda. Do you have a favorite fabric to sew with?
Oh, I'd have to say cotton lawn just because it's so easy. I like an easy life. If I could if I had more patience, then I'd say like something like a silk because it feels nice to work with. But no, actually, I just don't have that much patience for it.
Yeah, I think a cotton lawn is a good choice, and it's really nice to wear as well. It's nice and light, and you've got a good choice of prints.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Linda says, do you also have favorite items to make? Hers is using jersey fabrics and making loungewear.
Oh, I do need to do some of that. But my favorite makes just dresses, really. Yeah, give me a dress. I like a dress because I don't have to worry about what I pair it with. Like I said, I like an easy life. So if I can just pull a dress out of my wardrobe, then I'm fine. Often I just have cold legs all the time. So it's not really ideal, especially when we live in Britain. But yeah, I think I need to learn to do more separates.
Are you one of those people that will hold out as long as possible on wearing tights?
I used to wear tights. I've stopped with the faff of tights, but maybe it's because it's not got too cold yet. But then I think I do have some jeans. They look terrible on me. So generally I do just chuck jeans on, like if I know I'm not going to see anyone or be seen. So that's, yeah.
Secret jeans.
Secret.
Okay, I'm surprised that we haven't had any Dress the Nation questions yet, but I think we're going to have to kick that off because otherwise everyone will start asking questions like 2 minutes before the end. But yeah, when you first did Stash Chats, we did half an hour, but now we do an hour. I don't know if I told you. But yeah, we'll easily chat for an hour. So obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, Dress the Nation was a kind of reality TV competition show like the Sewing Bee, but you were competing to be a fashion designer to design clothes for Marks and Spencer, which is like one of the biggest brands in the UK. So like, what inspired you to apply to go on the show in the first place?
I feel like it was manifested for me. So I recorded an episode of Love to Sew podcast. And on the day that I did it, I shared it with my Instagram followers and I was like, I've just had like a dream come true, done the best thing ever. Like stay tuned till May and you'll hear all about it. And people started guessing and they were like, have you done a TED talk? Are you making sewing patterns? Are you on TV? And I had a few people even message about the TV. And I was like, well, like a few people have said that. I was thinking, like so many people are just dreaming dreams way bigger than I could possibly ever do. I'm just like, you guys have like so much faith in me. But at the time, I had a DM in my inbox from a casting producer to talk about this brand new show. And they were like, would you like to share it with your followers? Would you like to apply? And at first I'd ignored it, but after recording that episode of Love to Sew, I thought, oh, I'll just send in a cheeky application because, you know, people are saying, are you going to be on TV? And the next thing I know, I get a call on my birthday to say I'm on the show.
Amazing. I mean, a good thing that you answered it as well, and that you weren't just like, I'm busy. Happy birthday to me. You won't answer the phone today. That's so exciting.
Although we were together when the call came through. It was a few days before me getting the final call, because there was loads of like interview processes and things. And one of the casting producers rang me and was like, oh yeah, like, you know, it's quite likely that you're going to be cast, blah, 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 like start practicing your pattern cutting and stuff. And I was just like, yeah, as if like that's going to actually happen. But like Yvette had my phone and it popped up saying like so and so from ITV, and I was like, oh, you did not see that.
Yeah, no, I was like, I want to take this, Sandeep. Yeah, that was amazing. And when you first applied, you didn't quite realise that it was like a pattern where you were assessed on the pattern drafting rather than the sewing.
Yeah, so the premise of the show hadn't really been like fleshed out properly. So when we applied, a lot of it was like, well, we don't know yet because we haven't really figured it all out, like how the program would all work. And so I didn't really know what it meant to be a fashion designer or how you be a fashion designer on the TV. Do you just like go up to somebody and be like, here's a little doodle that I did, please make it. Here's a seamstress and here's the person who will make the pattern or whatever. Like, what does a fashion designer actually do? Turns out we do everything. So yeah, we had to learn to pattern cut and sew and just do it all really. And I was way out of my depth. My experience with pattern cutting was, I think, maybe 3 years prior. I can't remember the exact dates, but a long time ago, I had made my own block of a bodice and a skirt. And then the person who taught me, which is Kate from Project Patterns, she showed us kind of how to manipulate a dart and like turn it and pivot it and do things. But it was a very quick, like 5 minutes at the end sort of tutorial. So I really didn't have a clue. And so when I was having to approach this whole thing, I was like going through books, trying to figure things out. I'd only self-drafted 2 items from that block. And they were still very basic. So yeah, I was way out of my depth.
But did you feel like you learned a lot during the process?
Definitely, yeah. Because you would never give yourself that much time to literally be like, oh, okay, well, here's a brief and here's whatever. So like I'd never have tried to draft any of those items unless I'd had that brief and was kind of made to do it.
Have you done any of your own self-drafting since?
Nope.
Having a break.
I've barely done any sewing since. I need to change that. Maybe next year is the year that I kind of, get my sojo back and get creating.
Because I can imagine it was like really intense, the whole process.
Yeah, it really was. So we would film so for the challenge 1, we had a bit of I don't know if we're supposed to talk about this, but I know other people have, so I'm just going to share what has been shared. But with challenge 1, we had a slight little a little bit extra time to prepare for those. So for the first 3 challenges, at least we could prepare for those at home. And then the challenge 2, we would, like when we got to filming, we would film challenge 1 and then we would get the brief for challenge 2. Then that night we would pattern cut for challenge 2. And in the morning we would then film challenge 2. So it was incredibly intense and like I barely slept because I was just trying to figure out how to do all of this stuff from scratch. And oh my goodness, I survived though.
Yeah, it was amazing watching you though, and like you were so resilient and I don't know, so like such a joyful presence on the show as well, like, you know,
Oh,
supporting other people even when you're in like the middle of all your crazy stuff. I thought it was amazing.
oh, thank you.
Linda says, was it hard to produce a garment in front of the cameras and being scrutinized?
Um, I think most of the time, like the cameras weren't really the issue. Like I didn't mind like being surrounded by cameras because you're just so busy. You just kind of don't know. Well, you do notice them, but not massively. Um, I think the scrutiny was the hard part because it's like you really want to do well and you just want to like keep going with it. So if you ever mess up, it's just that sheer anxiety of like you could go at any time. So at end of challenge 1 or challenge 2 on any episode, you could go. So you weren't safe at any point. So you're constantly living in fear of like, if I don't finish this garment, I'm gone. Or if I don't do it well enough, I'm gone. Yeah, so you're just in a state of pure fear. But it's just because you want to do well, not because you're having like I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, not they're not like being mean to you or you know, intimidating you in the judging. It's more just that you feel like there's a lot riding on it and you really want it to go well, so you've sort of built that up in yourself really.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But I was
But
really lucky though. Like the judges were all really nice and supportive and like even AJ and Vernon and like coming over, giving you hugs, like some reassurance and stuff. And actually it kind of makes you realize the importance of presenters on a show. Especially for me, like I really like needed them. And to be honest, I needed so many people who were also amazing. We had so many people working on the show who would just offer reassurance, and it was just like, yeah, I was very, very lucky to have like, yeah, such a nice environment. They did look after us so well. So yeah.
that's really good to hear because I feel like you do get like horror stories about people, you know, being on the TV and feeling like they were
Mm,
bullied and stuff. So I think that's really nice that they did look after you and make sure you're doing
yeah.
it.
If you're ever applying to be on TV, look for South Shore Productions as like if they're the ones who are creating the show, you're in safe hands. Because yeah, there are production companies out there. Like you hear the people from Love Is Blind, they've had like some like horror stories. They're always talking about it on TikTok, slating the production company, which is really sad. But yeah, we were very, very lucky.
Oh, Linda says, are you in touch with David and how is he doing?
Yeah, so we've all still got our group chat. So yeah, he's now started his job and he's doing well. Yeah, I'm
Amazing.
really proud of him. It's so nice to see him like just I'm just looking at my phone as if he's there. But yeah, no, it's really amazing to see how well his collection's done. And yeah, he's just gonna smash that job. And like I can't wait to see what he puts out next. And yeah, it's really exciting.
I guess you've got quite a strong bond with all of the people that were on the show with you because it's like a shared trauma in a way.
Yeah. But they're honestly all the designers are just amazing and just so brilliant in all their own ways. And today Ryan won an award. I wish I could tell you what it is. Again, I'm looking at my phone. But like it's just I'm so like well done, Ryan, if you're watching. Yeah, and like just seeing everybody's successes is brilliant. You're just cheering each other on and you just want everyone to do so well. And we'll all do our own things. And I think that's what I also really liked about the casting of our show is because there's not a single designer that is the same as anyone else. So we'll never be each other's competitors because we'll never have the same customers. And so it even like it kind of helps you with that. Like you can still cheer everyone on more easily. And we're not here to like battle against each other. We're here to celebrate each other, which is so nice.
Amazing. apart from obviously on the show when you were very much competitors.
Yeah. Well, even then I found it really hard. I remember like on the finals, we were doing our little like chats with the producers. It was like filmed and stuff, but like even then I was just like, you just want everyone to do well, and I was like, I think I really struggled actually every single week but every single day when somebody would leave the show. I genuinely just felt really guilty for still being there because I felt bad that I was taking someone else's space. And like, I just kind of wanted everyone to keep going in the process, and like everyone deserved that job. And so I found it emotionally really, really difficult to just be like, I deserve to be in the next challenge. Like I didn't really feel like that at all. And I was like, what am I doing here? Like these people are really amazing. Like when Dalen and Paul like didn't get through to next round, like I felt so bad about having got through, and it was just, I'm not very good at being competitive. I'm too I'm too
You're
soft
too nice,
or something.
too humble.
I'm just like, let us all win, let's all go through, let's all get jobs.
Let's start a new arm of the brand and we can all work together. Oh, that's amazing. But yeah, I think you really did come across like very humble, and you know, you're just like, oh, I don't know what to do, and then you produce this thing that's amazing and all the judges love it, and you're like, oh, really? Oh, okay. Like you know, and I because Doug watched it with me as well, and he became quite like passionate about it, and like, you know, on the little voiceovers at the start where they're like, after a rocky week one, Sandeeps really picked up, and you didn't do badly on week one. Stop lying.
Oh dear. Yeah, it's it was a real roller coaster, and I think like every single time I just found more and more determination, and I kind of started tapping into that. I don't think I've ever had determination or like resilience quite like it, and it just kind of showed me that actually if you want something, like you can really put the work into it. I kind of live a very safe life, whereas like I'm tucked away in my studio and I don't have to see anyone or battle through decisions or anything. Like I kind of lived like the easiest way through life. So to put yourself through like the most competitive thing ever was like really jarring, and I was like, oh, how do I do this? How do I navigate this? Yeah, it's bizarre.
Like yeah, and for as well, for anyone who hasn't watched the show yet, you had like the second challenge was like a team challenge where you worked with the other designers, and that I think was quite interesting and quite different from like the other sewing shows, that it made quite a different dynamic, and it probably, you know, made you bond with all the other contestants even more.
Yeah, it's well, I think a lot of the bonding happened more between like the challenges and like in our breaks and our lunches and in the evenings and stuff. Like, I think when you're in the studio and you're filming those challenges, like there's not really much time to focus on like everyone and everything, or at least it wasn't for me, because I was like, I need to get this like sewed, or I need to do this because I can't let them down and we have to get through. So yeah, well, I guess yes, there is a kind of secret element of, or subtle element of bonding in that stage, but a lot of it was like, as soon as the cameras were down and we were downstairs in the green room, just having snacks, drinking tea, that is when you'd be like, oh my God, so-and-so said this happened, that happened. And you just kind of just, yeah, that's where those friendships were really formed. And, you know, I honestly, I couldn't have got through with it without those other designers, because their friendship really got me through. And like on the last episode, I wore a ring of Paul's on my thumb or on my finger. And like that is the only reason I was so calm. And Chris gave me a little crystal, and Paul had written me a note, and I had all of those on my table at all times on that final. And anytime I was getting anxious, I would just be like holding onto Paul's ring, because it was just like, this guy has faith in me. He's like, I completely adore him, and like I have all of their support. And yeah, so that's how I was like quite chill for once.
Did you find it strange watching yourself back from, like, you know, obviously there was you doing it in real life, but then the bits that they decided to keep and the way they edited it into the show?
Yeah, I think I was very lucky with my edit because I felt like it was quite true to what happened. So I was really pleased with it. But like it didn't really feel like I was watching national television. It felt like I was watching my school play with my mum and dad and being like, oh, there's me. So it wasn't really like, it didn't feel like a big thing. And like even now, if I go out in Coventry, which is where I live, no one says anything or whatever. But as soon as I leave Coventry, like that's when people interact and they're like, I saw you. It happened just this weekend when I was in London and someone was like, you were that girl on the TV. And they always say such nice things and stuff. And so it's only then you realize, oh, people have watched this show and like it actually happened, because it just doesn't really seem real.
Are you ever tempted to just be like, no, that wasn't me? No, you're mistaken.
I really love it when people say it, to be honest. Is that bad?
Oh, you gotta own it. It's a big achievement. Not everyone's been on the TV.
Yeah. Oh, it just makes me really happy when people are like saying nice stuff, because it's just, yeah, it's just nice to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good, and you did really well.
Thank you.
Oh, right. Let us know in the chat if you're watching live, if you've got any questions that you want to ask Sandeep. When you were on Dress the Nation and you had the fabric room that you had to choose the fabrics from, were you kind of secretly wishing that you could just choose from your own fabric stash?
Massively. Yeah, the selection would change sometimes. Well, I think every day it changed. So even if you saw something ready for like a future challenge, you'd kind of start to make a mental note of like, I want that for like this episode and that episode, or this, like, and then sometimes they take those fabrics out. And so like you didn't always know what's really going to be in the room. And they'd bring stuff in specifically for specific challenges. But there were times where you're just like, there's nothing, like I wouldn't wear any of this, or I wouldn't sew any of this. And I think that really showed up in some of my choices. So like for the kids' dresses or whatever, I made this like floral dress, and like it's cute enough. But if I had my way, I would have chosen like a better fabric for it. But the other options were like scratchy, or they were polyester, or they were just stuff that I wouldn't want to like sew or like put anyone in or wear myself. So although they would have like looked good on a hanger and like would have like, it's not really my thing. So I just chose stuff that would literally make sense, but perhaps don't portray very well on the telly. But oh well.
But I think you are very thoughtful in like all of your sort of decisions, and you know, in your business and in sort of everything that you do. And I think that did show in the show as well. So like when you had to do the kids outfit in the like collaboration challenge, you were like, well, lots of kids have sensory needs, so we're going to make this with no seams on the inside, and we're going to have a fiddle pocket, and we're going to do this, and you know, that you really sort of thought about the customer. And I enjoyed with your swimsuit challenge as well, where you were like, okay, I'm going to choose the customer as me, and my number one thing is I don't want to drown. So that's the theme of this swimsuit. And I just thought you've really considered that.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I think it just kind of makes me think of like, gosh, all the stuff I've said on TV is a bit banana sometimes.
I think it was great. I was like, finally, someone living in the real world. Because I mean, I assume you must have seen them as well, which what gave you the idea. But I always see things on socials that's like, if you put your kid in a blue swimsuit, this is what they look like at the bottom of the pool. And I'm like, don't even have a kid, but I don't want them to drown.
That was literally like, I think I'd seen that post like the day before as well or something. And I was like, oh, I must make a note in my head. And then we went into the fabric room, and then there was all these colors. And I was like, oh, which were the good colors that were safe? Because I couldn't remember. And I was like, am I allowed to check? And they were like, no.
Oh, no. What do you mean?
So I had to kind of just like guess, but so I wasn't sure about the lilac, but I knew the neons would be fine. So if I did almost drown, I would get saved. Oh dear.
Okay, Mel says, how do you choose fabrics for your shop? Do you choose what you like or what you think will sell?
I have learned to just choose the stuff that I like. If I choose stuff with other people in mind, that never sells and it just sits there. So that's been a very expensive learning curve. But yeah, I know it's always stuff that I want to sew. And it's always stuff that I can't find anywhere else. That has always been like the goal since day one. I just like, I remember early on there'd be stuff like in Australia or Canada and America. You couldn't get them here. And I was like, I want to sew that stuff. So that became my goal, was just finding those little random bits and bobs that, yeah, you couldn't find. And I try and do that now as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so now you're doing the art department collection, aren't you?
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah, so the art department is amazing. I reach out to artists and pattern designers and stuff. When I say pattern designers, I mean surface pattern designers. So they design fabrics and textiles and things, and then yeah, I get their prints and I put them onto fabrics. And it's such an amazing process because I get to choose exactly what base cloth is going to work well with which print and be like, that is definitely like a sateen, or that one is definitely like something a bit like thicker, or it needs this kind of drape, because like all prints kind of speak their own little, like, I was gonna say language, but I mean that literally in my head it makes sense.
Speak to you.
But yeah, like when I see a print and I'm like, I know that that's going to look good on a certain base cloth, like it's just kind of intuitive or whatever. And but yeah, having the freedom to just create those fabrics that literally you won't find anywhere else because I own that print. And yeah, it's amazing. And we've had so many great prints come through. Yeah, there's like moons and stars, and there's big prints and bold stuff. And yeah, so hopefully I can continue with the art department next year. There'll be another spring collection, and then I need to start sourcing for summer. But yeah, it's always very exciting.
Do you give your designers any sort of brief? Are you know, do you say, oh, we're thinking like celestial and darker colors, or are you like, you know, what's your thing? Let's go with it.
So it's more that I like look through their archives or like what they have or their portfolios. I'm like, I love this, or can we change this color? Can we do this with the scale? Can we like, so it's generally work that they've already produced. I have yet to specifically commission work. That is something that I have kind of started looking into. So maybe next year. But that is like a bigger process, because if I asked you to go and paint a picture for me tonight or in the next few weeks or months, like that just feels like such big pressure. And so I don't know, I feel a bit scared of asking someone to do that. And I know they're professionals, but like I would feel overwhelmed by that. So yeah, I don't know. I think I quite like to just see what people create and then pick from that. But I know a lot of artists are happy to create based on a brief. So yeah, maybe it's something that I look into a bit more. We'll see.
It's like one of those things when you first start sewing, isn't it? Because now it's like, well, you could have clothes that's literally anything, any color, any design, any fit, and you're just like, I don't know where to start. So I guess you're sort of in that zone with the prints now, like having it slightly narrowed down to things that have already been created at least gives you a starting point.
Yeah.
Or your confidence will grow as you do more collections.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see that grow. And just and see where we can take it, because the stuff we're getting is just so amazing. And I mean, the people that I found are just the most brilliant designers. Yeah, there's some like based in New York and some based in Brazil and all sorts of places. And so it's just like a real global like amazingness. Yeah.
And it brings really different vibes to the different collections as well.
Yeah, it really does. You can just like see like someone's personality come through on their artwork. And like in a weird way, I think because I've just got such a sentimental mind, but like the thought of going to someone and saying, please may I purchase your print, because I know so many people will want to wear it. And then I kind of just picture them as like being 15 years old and being like, can they imagine themselves when they were back in school doing their GCSEs or their equivalent and being like, one day someone is going to be like buying my prints, and then there's going to be people across the world wearing them. Like, this was just a person, and now they're like have their art on people's bodies across the world. Like, how amazing is that? I love it for them. Yeah, it makes me really excited.
Amazing. Ruth says, what are you looking forward to sewing for yourself next year when you have sewing time?
Instantly, I knew exactly what that answer was, and I didn't realize that I knew that. But I really want to make a trench coat, and I actually have the fabric waiting, and it's been waiting for like 4 years. It's just a tencel twill, so like not a real kind of coating fabric, but it's got like a really lovely weight. But I think it's going to be like a really good like piece to wear through spring to autumn. I'm thinking like making it really long and like having all the details of like the storm flaps and like just, yeah, I really want to get stuck into that and just have the most like luxurious, yeah, silky soft drapey trench coat.
And is that like the classic sort of tan color that you've
got? No, I've gone for like a darker brown. It's not, well, it's like a mid brown. So yeah, so it's kind of a bit more richer than like, yeah, your typical classic shade. But I think that will go with a lot of stuff in my wardrobe. So yeah, excited for that.
Oh, that would be really good. That's not a speedy project to just
whip out.
You're gonna have to really get your teeth into that.
And I think the thing that's been stopping me is finding the perfect pattern for it. So maybe that's where I have to work. Like so I really want to make the pattern for it, or do something like that. So I don't know whether to just hold off or whether to just make one that's an existing pattern, and then maybe another day or another year I'll have my own like different pattern for another one. I don't know. Maybe I should just make it. I can't decide. This is why I don't sew, because I spend too much time faffing around in my thoughts and not enough time just like literally just getting the scissors and going for it.
I'm pretty sure there's a new pattern that's like a trench coat with all the details that I saw in the fold. So I'll try and find that and I'll send it to you if that's the thing you want. But that looked really good. But I did see the pattern and think, yeah, that's nice. But who's got but, you know, it's less time than if you draft the whole pattern yourself. So
that's true. I just think with a pattern like that, you're going to have top stitching. There's going to be loads of like actual sewing to do. And I find like a lot of the time I'm spending more time ironing or cutting out than actually sewing. So any chance that I've got to like add top stitching and more excuses to actually spend at the machine, like I'd love that.
Yeah, because you've got a fancy new sewing machine, haven't you?
Yeah, I've upgraded to an industrial, but I'm thinking I might upgrade her again, so swap her out and get a slightly newer model. But yeah, I'm enjoying the industrial life though. It's so much speedier. But you still need a real, I was gonna say a real machine, but like a domestic machine, because like an industrial can only do one thing. So yeah, the need to have the other one is like essential. Yeah.
At least, and you know, there it's just there, and you're like, look, you're just for buttonholes, okay? You're not tired. You're just gonna do those buttonholes. No messing about, okay?
Oh.
Yeah. Well, because Doug sewed his shirt last month.
Yeah. Oh, that was amazing. Well done, Doug. Very proud of you.
And that was in some fabric that he chose from your stand actually at the knitting and stitching. And he did really well on that, but my machine just gave up at, you know, post 9 p.m. buttonholes. It was like, nah, actually. He did. I mean, the first one turned out perfect, and then the rest weren't working. And he was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, it's not you, it's the machine.
Yeah, buttonholes can be tricky. I think there's definitely like it has to be done during daylight hours.
Yeah.
Or it's just not worth bothering.
Yeah.
It's like all machines have like a daylight sensor.
Yeah. Right. No. Well, some machines have a thing that's like, I need a rest now, don't they? A little message that comes up and it's just like, no, how dare you?
Oh, has Doug got any more sewing plans?
No, we had our Stash Hub Zoom last night, and someone said, "Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing what you're going to sew next," and he was like, "No." So, novelty of it, but I don't think it's for me. That's fine by me because it means I don't have to share my machine.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think he liked it, to sort of learn a new thing, but I think the idea of just sitting at a machine all the time and doing it again and again, I think he was like, nah. Maybe I can convince him to do some more sewing for our next Stash Hub anniversary.
Yeah, maybe like an annual thing.
Yeah,
that'd be quite good. Are you sewing anything at the minute?
I'm sewing something extremely ridiculous at the moment. So I'll see if I can just show you on the screen. It's not very professional, but for advertising the new inspiration section that we've got in Stash Hub, I added this baby's dress.
Wow.
On Instagram. So I added that. You probably can't even see it. I added that to my inspiration in Stash Hub, and then I'm currently working on a version of it in my size.
Oh wow! Oh, that's amazing.
So yeah, that's coming on. It's coming on well, actually. Yeah, it's nearly done. So I'll be able to play that at Christmas. Hopefully, I can stand in front of the Christmas tree and you won't even see me because I'll blend in.
Oh, that's going to be so cool.
It's very silly. So I did kind of draft a lot of it myself, and I'm very glad that process wasn't televised, because I'm there like, right, I think the thing is 2 pi r, but now I'm going to have to like reverse that. So I'm like, divide it by 2, divide it by pi. Like, it was like a whole thing, because I wanted to make a circle skirt for underneath, and then I had to figure out what the circumference would be at like the different heights for the different tiers, so I could know how long to make the strips, and then gather them up so that they'd have like, the same amount of gathering.
Oh my goodness.
So that was like a process, and I was just sitting there with my calculator like, why have I done math for 15 years? But I think it's worked out. So yeah, hopefully I can share that by the end of the week. Yeah, so that's been good fun.
Amazing. Oh, I love that. I think you need to create some sort of formula that people can then recreate the same maths, because I don't think working it out is going to be for the faint-hearted.
No, I mean, I'm not even that confident in my own maths that I would be able to share it, but it seems to have worked out. I feel like gathers can hide a lot of sins.
That's true.
I feel like if you do a pattern, where everything's flat and it needs to like all fit together, you're like, can I get away with just chopping that bit hanging off the edge? But with I'll just pull it in a bit more, it'll be fine. Yeah. What else am I going to ask you? We've only got like 5 minutes left now, so if anyone watching live has got a quick question, they're gonna slap into the chat. You got your last chance.
Well, my question to you is, what has been the highlight of your year?
Oh, I don't know. What have we been up to this year? So much stuff. It was really good doing a talk at the Knitting and Stitching show. That was really nice, and I felt much less nervous as well doing it at the Knitting and Stitching show than at the Stitch Festival, because that I did on the Sunday, which was the last day, so I was knackered, and then I got really, really stressed, and then I was like, I think I'm going to have a migraine now. Oh, I've got to go on stage in 10 minutes. So yeah, I was much more comfortable doing it the second time. And we had like a really good, really supportive audience as well, which was nice. And even the sound engineer was like, that sounds like a really good idea. I'm going to tell my wife to download this app. So that was really nice. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. There's been so much stuff just like generally happening. Yeah, we went last week to help Doug's aunt organise her stash. That was really fun. Yeah, so I'm going to try and put together a video of that process.
Nice.
That was really nice. So hopefully that will be inspiring to people as well to sort their collections out in the, you know, in that New Year surge of energy that you feel when you're like, got to sort my life out now.
I feel like that's a very good activity to do between like Christmas and New Year's, where you're like not really doing anything. You can have some like TV in the background and just, yeah, go through it.
Like, I've eaten, you know, 3 cheese platters for breakfast. If I don't stand up, I'm going to fall asleep. So let's go off some fabric. Yeah, yes, it's been really good.
Do you have a goal for next year?
Not really. I think we need to like think about it a bit more. Yeah, I don't know. Well, how about you? Have you got a big goal for Sister Mintaka?
I do, but it's under wraps.
Secret goal. Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's quite good because then, you know, nobody knows if you don't make it. You're not accountable to anyone else. It's just something for you to aim for.
Yeah, I think that's what I need to do going forward, because I think every time I announce things, like there's always some sort of hiccup that happens. So it's best to kind of probably just, yeah, wait until I'm actually be like, okay, now I'm ready to present. Yeah, so we'll see.
Oh, this is very mysterious and very exciting. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye out on you.
Yeah, I think there's some major. Oh no, I'm not going to say anything. We're just
yeah. Major stuff, guys. You heard it here first. Mel says sophisticated. I feel like that's definitely a big achievement in Mel's year. The big sewing party that she hosted in the autumn, that was amazing.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so we're going to meet up later this week to talk about Surrey Sews events for 2025. So that will be fun to meet up with people in person. I feel like that's, yeah, something really unexpected that's come out of learning to sew, like just meeting all these new friends in person. It's like really crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. Like I remember like this time, not this time, like sorry, words. Let's find them. I remember not this summer, the summer before, talking about loneliness, and like shortly after I met like the most amazing people, and they're now like really dear friends, and I just found them through sewing and like going to a workshop, and yeah, and then we bonded, and that's it. Like it's amazing how much you can find through sewing. It's not literally just making clothes, but there's friendships, and yeah, it's brilliant.
I feel like you talked quite a lot about this on your Love to Sew podcast as well, like the sewing community and how wholesome and amazing it is. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what we talked about in that episode, but I remember it being really good.
I think I just remember crying, which is probably a sign of what was to come for Dress the Nation.
But I think it was amazing though, because you don't often get to see people be like, you know, that vulnerable and that open about how things, you know, make them feel. And so I think for you to talk about, you know, how much sewing's changed your life and how much you appreciate the community, it's the sort of stuff that everyone sort of feels, but for you to like you know, just talk about it so openly, it's like, yeah, really amazing. And I think it's one of the things that's just like, oh, we love you, Sandeep.
Oh. Well, I love you. And yeah, we're not going to end with tears.
No, we're not getting it too emotional. We've got only 1 minute left. There's no time.
Oh dear. But yeah, no, honestly, like I think we're very, very lucky to be in the world that we're in with like the sewing community. It is amazing, and I'm very, very proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, definitely. It's been, yeah, I don't even know. Like when I bought my sewing machine, it was like, I'm going to make a hammock for my rat. Who knew that like a few years later, this is what I'd be doing? Like, what on earth?
I know, you've got your own talk show now.
I know. I feel like I should just like, you know, get a sofa like Graham Norton, get everyone on. You know, big production budget. I feel like that's aiming quite high though, so maybe not on the 2025 plans.
Well, 2026 sounds reasonable. You've got a year to get that going.
Year to get a sofa. Oh, that was amazing. All right, that is the end of Stash Chats for the whole year. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Sandeep, and for coming on the show again.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always such good fun to talk to you. And thank you to everyone who's watched as well, live and on catch up on any of the episodes this year. So I'm not going to be around for the next couple of weeks on lives. So it's a good chance for you to catch up on some of the previous episodes if you haven't been watching since episode 1. Yeah, and then I'm going to be back in January, and I think the first Stash Chat is going to be with Hayley of So Hayley Jane to talk about her big new venture that she's just launched. So yeah, I'll see you in January for that. So have a lovely festive season, everyone, and see you in the shiny new year when we're all hopefully feeling motivated. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Sandeep.
Thanks. Bye.
Oh, Linda says you're fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for watching, Linda. Bye, everyone.
Bye.